I remember growing up and how it felt on the same piece of land. I'm not talking about I'm going somewhere else. The same exact spot. I could stand outside. We could go out and play all morning from about, let's just say 9 o'clock to about noon. You wish you would do that right now, 9 to noon, and go play. You would be in somebody's hospital from heat exhaustion or worse, and it burns. There's a burning sensation that it feels like now that it didn't feel like that when I was in elementary playing on the playground. Even in college, it didn't feel like it does now.
A movement is underway of people abandoning the emotional, physical, and financial expenses of city living and crafting their own purpose, livelihoods, and joy in the rural reaches. The Urban Exodus podcast shares the wisdom, wit, and stories of those who decided to embark on the road less traveled, to pursue their own interpretation of the good life. Small business owners, change makers, artists, farmers, and more, working towards building a better future for themselves and their fellow citizens. This podcast is for country dreamers, rural folk, and urban dwellers alike who want to feel more connected to the natural world and the purpose and choices in their lives. I'm Alyssa Hessler. Welcome to the Urban Exodus. I'm excited to invite you to my conversation with Christopher Joe. Christopher is a conservationist and a third-generation Black Angus cattle farmer. He is also the founder of Connecting with Birds and Nature Tours. Christopher and his family own 200 acres of forests and fields in Alabama's Black Belt. Christopher is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to finding creative ways to use your land to benefit yourself, your community, and the greater ecosystem, no matter if you have hundreds of acres or just a small allotment. All right, so I'm really excited to have Christopher Joe on the show. Christopher, you have created something really special on your family's generational farm, and I'm really excited to share your story because I think that there are a lot of people who are kind of returning to their rural roots or returning to their family business in rural areas and trying to think up innovative ways to evolve those businesses or keep those businesses coming or even just additional revenue streams. So first off, I would just love to hear a little bit of your personal backstory, where you grew up and your journey to where you are now.
Well, it's a pleasure always to kind of tell my story, and looking back and where I first started this whole social media outreach, trying to tell my story, and now being able to tell it on platforms is something that I just, it's always fun to me. So I grew up in a small town, rural town of Greensboro, Alabama, which is nowhere if you're not familiar with Alabama, but it's in what we call the Black Belt area. The Black Belt is a predominantly high poverty area, and the reason they call it the Black Belt is mainly because the soils around this area. So the soils kind of dictated a lot of the farming practices when those came out of the northeast down, and they saw how things grew. That mainly made a lot of settlers settle down here to grow cash crop, which was cotton. So everything was either cotton plantation, and we kind of all know that history behind that and how, cotton was integral in growing the South and made a lot of people rich in the South, but they didn't look like me. So that was one of the backstories to where I grew up at. My family came from the Virginias down to Alabama, and they settled. This is on my dad's side. So my dad's dad, and his siblings came to the area we call New Bern, Alabama. It's a small rural town as well. Our farm is 10 minutes from where we grew up at in Greensboro. So we would go down to the farm often to work the cows. We raise Black Angus cattle, and we're third generation, so it's been in our family a long time. So the siblings all kind of got this land, about 200 acres, and we run today at least 60 to 70 head of cows on the property. We do our own hay, which is a very big plus on our side because that's money that you can kind of save and then also sell extra to other farmers, which we do have a contract with 2 guys to do that. So that kind of helps as well. But growing up in a small town, there was the high school that we went to was the integrated school. We did have an all-black school and an integrated school, which I went to, and then they had a private school, which was all white. So no, you didn't go there. So that was out. That kind of built up in us. We were exposed to people of, the whites and blacks. And I kind of had some friends like that. And every now and then after a summer or two, you'll start seeing a couple of friends not come back. And I'm like, where did they go? And they would eventually, the parents, took some of them out and put them in the all white school, which was an academy. That's just how it went sometimes. So that kind of played into some of your psyche of, relations and how the small towns and people got together. But we stuck to our farming. My dad was a agriculture teacher. So I learned a lot of what I know from him dealing with farming, ag, woodworking, carpentry, all kinds of stuff like that. So I'm currently, building bird houses. So that's kind of what kind of that whole carpentry come into handy at. So that's kind of the background. Got out of high school, went to Alabama A&M University, which is a HBCU that's real big into agriculture. So that kind of went in my veins. So ag was pretty much inside of me the whole time. So ag played a big role in my career. When I was in my sophomore year in college, I started interning with the USDA, and that's currently where I work now in Tuskegee, Alabama, with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. So ag has been my saving grace, and it allows me to still do what I love, which is outdoors, conservation, and meeting people to help them in their side of doing their property, which I do daily.
That's amazing. You're working as a district conservationist for the Natural Resources Conservation Service. For people who aren't familiar, can you explain your job and kind of the work that you do on a day-to-day basis?
Our funding comes from the Farm Bill. This is all Department of Agriculture. So every county and every state has a service center or a county office to where they can go and speak to someone like myself related to whatever operation that they're trying to do on their property. So, for instance, if you have somebody in timber, you clear cut your area and you're saying, hey, I would like to replant this, but it costs a pretty penny to kind of do it out your pocket. The Farm Bill allows us to do these type practices, which is land use, conservation, and we can help assist people in those aspects. So forestry, cattle, grazing, goats, micro irrigation, high tunnel houses, which helps people extend their growing season. So there's just a variety of different things that we do offer people in our professional aspects. And it's fun to me because you can catch people from a brand new person or a person that's been farming for, their whole life. So I meet different people and of different backgrounds. And when I say different backgrounds, I've talked to everybody, and you get a chance to see different land uses, how people use their land or want to use their land. And then I kind of plug them into the practices and things that we offer so they can better use their property or to achieve it. One quick story, I had a guy moved from California to Alabama, bought some property and said, Chris, I'm a city slicker. I want to be a cattle farmer. Help me. And we pretty much ran around his property, looked in every corner, and came up with a plan on a map and, implemented that plan using different practices that helped him get with our application process. He got funded, and today he's running a herd of probably 20 to 30 red Angus cattle. And he just laughs every time he sees me. He said, "Man, I remember, I remember when we first started this." So it does me good to see that, because a lot of times people don't see their efforts realized. Sometimes it's like you may help a person, but you never see it. So seeing this kind of process from start to finish, even with a timber person, seeing, after a clear cut, it all looks kind of junky, to 6-year-old longleaf pine trees or loblolly pine trees that are coming up out the ground and coming over your head. So it's good to see those kind of things and know that your efforts, are helping somebody achieve their goals.
I know so many people through this project who have worked with the Natural Resources Conservation Service and applied for grants and have been able to, work towards their dreams. And so it's such an important job. And for people who maybe are just starting out, or people who are going back to, their family's land, connecting with you and other people in your position all over the country is such a great way to see the potential to learn from someone that really knows their stuff and can give you really helpful advice and maybe even funding. So thank you so much for explaining that, because I think that as people just start out, they can feel really overwhelmed trying to figure out what to do.
It sure can. And sometimes, you may not get funded that first time. I've had one lady, she about cried in my office because she said, "I told this is the second time." And luckily, like that, I want to say that third try that she got funded. And I tell people, hey, it's not 100% thing. There's sometimes we don't get you funded, but I really do like, if you can wait on us, try to wait on us, because when we can fund you, it's life changing. And that's part of the thing that our family, my dad, I had when I first started working, I kind of was like, wow, this is pretty neat that you can sign up and get assistance to do things like you're already going to do it, but you get somebody to financially, help you with it. And we started, and I'm talking about, got a well, pipeline, water troughs, cross fencing, and then also stream crossings, because we had some areas that it was, to cross, it was wet areas, and having a stream crossing, which was basically a rock base with a filter cloth at the bottom, so the water, it doesn't impede the water flow, natural water flow, and you can cross it and not sink into the mud. So this is, I tell people, hey, you're looking at a person that used these programs. I'm not just, telling you something. So we've used it, and still to this day, we're pretty much a one-man operation, because the way we ran our cross fencing allowed us to move the livestock in a rotational grazing fashion to where it's conducive to one person can do it. So I only come home to give shots and tags and assist with, the hay process, but it's fun. It's fun.
That's amazing. So your family has been running your ranch for the last 3 generations. I'd love for you to describe your family's land and your relationship to this land and the challenges and benefits of living there.
Well, going back to the whole Black Belt soils area, we do have, like I said, 200 acres, and the trail system, which is probably about 6 miles worth of trail. We have a creek that runs from the northeast side to almost the middle south part of our property. And that also allows us to have different habitat changes. So that plays into, and I'll come back to that later on when I discuss our birding and nature business. But those habitat changes allows you to do different management styles or different management. Our hay fields, everything is kind of flat in our area. So when it rains heavily, we do experience floods where the water comes up. I've seen it, thigh high for a day or two, and then it goes back down the entire field, water up to your thigh. But that's just, how how our land is. And once that goes down, that's real good because it's rich in nutrients. And we can, rain and that kind of fertilizer, natural fertilizer that comes from the creek system. And it just does the grass good. So we cut hay. The cattle, Dad does not believe in underfeeding anything. So our cattle are pretty good on the chunky side. That makes kind of the going back into farming when he pretty much picked it up from his dad when he passed. I think my grandfather passed in probably 88, 89, somewhere around there. So they've been farming, and my grandfather was cattle farmer and also a vegetable farmer. The farmers back then kind of were dual, operations. So they had vegetables, cattle, hogs, or something like that. And as a kid, I remember, the whole neighborhood, which was really a long road, and everybody, the siblings, were all one. Siblings and relatives all were in one area. So everybody came and did different things. So everybody knew when the hog was getting slaughtered because it was a whole neighborhood affair, and that provided, food for, everybody, cattle the same way. But then I remember growing up and we were planting watermelons, squash, okra, greens, and that kind of early on exposure to tilling the land or using the land for those type of growing, and then seeing the cattle, that stuff kind of put something inside of you to where today I can look back on it and said, okay, that's where I got this characteristic from, or where I got this kind of education on without, stepping foot on a college campus. I kind of knew this already. So that family background, them growing vegetables and then also doing the cattle farm, and then my dad picking it up from his father once he had passed, we kind of just went full steam into Black Angus cattle farming. And that's the cattle that my dad decided to settle on. Black Angus is a breed of your Angus beef cattle, and I do love them because they're on the calm side. They're easy calving. We don't have, I can't even remember. I think I was a kid the last time we actually had to pull a calf out. But they're real easy with calving. They're pretty much calm. Even when we do work them, we do it during certain times. We don't do it in the heat of the day. If we can't get them first thing in the morning, it's towards the evening to where we work them and, give shots and tags. But we don't do that often all the time. So it helps to have animals that will be calm to you, and you don't have to worry too much about, I got a wild animal and it's dangerous that I do, and that's to make an operation work. I feel like you need something that's going to work with how your management is. If I had 6, 7 people working a ranch, and you probably have muscle and people around that can do that. But if it's, one person pretty much full time and 2 or 3 people come as needed, you got to have something that's going to be easy and relaxing to work with. So that's where we went full steam with the Black Angus cattle. And to this day, we mainly sell to individual farmers to extend or grow their herd. And at some times we do sell for beef, but normally it takes 2 years for you to get a steer up to the best type of meat, fat to lean meat content if you're doing it for beef production. But mainly what we normally do is just sell to individual farmers, and that's how we've been sustaining for these years, and works pretty good.
Calling all small and rurally based business owners. Do you love Urban Exodus and want to help support our continued programming? Become a founding partner of the new Urban Exodus shop. You can reach an engaged customer base who believes in supporting farmers, makers, artisans, and small business owners in rural economies. We are looking for culinary delights, home goods, body goods, art, textiles, adornments, more. We just are really interested to see what you're creating and try to help you get it out there to a larger audience. And we're looking for vendors who make quality products, who pay a living wage, and who run sustainably minded operations. And if this sounds like you and your business and you want to learn more, please click the partnerships page on urbanexodus.com. It's really hard to keep a ranch business going for multiple generations. People are losing their ranches left and right. And it requires a lot of hard work and creative thinking on ways that you can evolve. And one of the ways that you have diversified your family's farm offerings has been starting connecting birds and nature's tours. So I'd love for you to tell the founder story, where you came up with the idea, when you started it, and kind of your vision for the future.
Well, that is a fun story because it's it's almost like a dream. I know a lot of people like looking at other folks when they start the business and like, wow, he grew that business and they started this. And you never think that, oh, you're going to do this and you'll be able to tell your founding story and how you grow it. So even now when I'm, being interviewed and television shows are coming and doing segments on us, I still go back to what my original idea was. And I was talking with my brother, oldest brother, and we were thinking about stuff. And I was like, I think, we got a lot of land and I know there's some other stuff that we can do down here. So I reached out to the University of Alabama, which is leading university in our state, their tourism department. And I had a gentleman come down and it was it was hot. It was August, just like, it was burning. So he came down and he just rode the entire property with me. We have a gator UTV, which is the best way to get around property.
Fun.
So we rode around and he was just like, Chris, there's a lot of tourism, ecotourism and ag tourism stuff that you can do. And I've heard about that before, but it didn't connect that. Okay, tell me more about what you're thinking. He said, okay, we have people that like to walk in nature, nature trails. And then he said bird watching. And I'm like, folks pay money to come and watch birds. And he said, Chris, listen, you have no idea how big this is. And I just was like, okay. So after that kind of plugged something in me that I need to reach out to what's a bird organization. And that goes back to me working with the agency. You build partnerships. You never really do something on your own 100%. So that's kind of helped me reach out to our Audubon chapter in the state. And the funny thing is, I had set up the visit with him. It was on a Friday, and then I met with the Audubon people on a Sunday. So I did all of that within a weekend's time and got the ball rolling. And the story with the Audubon, when they got there, it was the executive director and one of the board members. And they came and they were just laughing. And they said, Chris, you're not going to believe this, but we've been watching you and your dad cut hay for years. And I never so those people that, and I see cars pull up on the end of our hay fields are by the main highway. So when we're cutting hay, the swallowtail kite and Mississippi kites fly around, getting the insects, grasshoppers and dragonflies and stuff like that out the grass when we're cutting it. And I would see these people down at the end of the road. And I'm like, what are they doing? And he said, Chris, we've been watching you guys at least the past 4 years and never knew exactly how to reach out to you to kind of plug in that we would like to come and bird on y'all property. And it gave me tingle because I was like, holy crap. So this is how we get this ball rolling. He said, Chris, I tell you what, let's plan to just have a couple of our members come out and just see what kind of bird we can find. I started that October 2018 was when October the 30th, 2018 is when I got, my business name and all that good stuff dealing with business. So got it in 2018. We had our first tour February of 19. We had the largest tour that they ever had was 130 people down there bird watching May of 19. So within a year's time, we already just blew the doors off bird watching on private property, which is what the project that they was wanting to do from, link up with private landowners, because bird watching it can be dangerous because most of the times you're stopping on the side of a highway or something, and it's not safe because a lot of people don't watch. And then if you're in between cars and somebody hits the back of a car, that's just, so I just like, well, maybe we just can offer people to come and bird watch on our property and we can take them around. And that's just where it started. So the 7th, matter of fact, next Saturday, we're having their first bird festival. We're a field trip on their bird festival next week, and they already sold it out. So bird watching is a big thing. We're in it now, and I made myself a pseudo photographer. Got one of those long lenses that look like you got a rocket launcher on your arm. But it turns out, so I kind of, self-taught photography. So a lot of the bird photos and stuff that I post, they're mine. So it's just fun to see that growth from 2018 to now that we've made that many friends in the outdoor birding industry and just people that wanted to get out. COVID, I don't want to say it helped, but COVID kind of made people explore the outdoors more than what they normally would, because you couldn't go to the movie theater, so that's indoors, and a lot of the indoor things they didn't, people couldn't do. So we're here like, hey, we're over here. We can host you. We can let you walk around to 200 acres, and I could put you over here. I can put somebody else over there, and trust me, I can get you pretty much spread out. So it really helped. And a lot of our visitors, and I want to say to this day, I think I've had over 300 something visitors. And probably after the 7th, we'll be cracking over 400 visitors.
That's amazing.
It's fun. And we also offer camping. So we had our first campers in August of last year. So that's something that's being offered now. And they're coming back next Saturday to camp Saturday and Sunday. So the 7th and 8th. But it's stuff like that you never know how it would help you diversify your operation. We still run the cattle. And most of the time, the questions come when people come in the bird watch like, oh, wow, look at that little calf. We had one lady television show and they were coming to record a segment and we had a calf being born. And they said, you guys planned this. I was like,
you're like, that's not possible.
I wish I did. But it so happened. And we drove past and I mean, like minutes after, and it was still shaky and wet. And they were just like, oh my gosh. So the news lady, she named it Sal. So Sal's doing pretty good right now. So Sal's pretty big, but it was funny to see how, an idea to come a reality, but it was all through partnerships, all through talking and not being scared to reach out to other people. And that's, if I can tell people what my main success thing is being able to talk and link up with other folks and make a partnership to where I don't know how far along I would be if I tried to do all of this on my own. Like, don't reach out to a bird organization. Let me see, can I reach out to one person at a time? That might not have worked. So, and then a lot of people's success, they don't achieve it because it's like you're trying to operate with blinders on instead of like, okay, let me just survey the whole landscape. Who's out here that can help me achieve what I'm trying to achieve? Or I don't even know what it is, but let me find somebody that can point me in that direction. And I think that's where my success has come from.
That's such a beautiful story. I think that it's really good advice too, because if you kind of silo yourself into like, okay, this is on me, I have to figure this out myself. Like there's so much pressure there. And then you don't have your community rooting for you and, spreading the word and connecting you with other people that can help you further that vision. Oh, that's just such a great founder story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
It's fun to tell it because it's just one of those things you never thought. And I've been interviewed so much and they was like, did you ever see yourself bird watching? And I'm like, technically, I've never like set out to be, let me learn all these birds. I saw them. And we recognize when we cut hay, they're flying around like, oh, okay, those are pretty neat birds. But when people like, oh my gosh, I have swallowtail kites. Oh, In our tour, we set people along the fence line in the shade and lawn chairs, and they have the lawn chairs, and they people, and it's just like you just open Christmas up to them. The birds are going over their head, they're flying, they're catching insects, and dad's out there on the tractor cutting, and people are like, oh my gosh, you have no idea how. And one guy, he said, Chris, this is the best birding trip I've ever been on. I've never had the chance to just hang like this, and the people bring the birds to me. They're like, y'all have these birds on a collar or somewhere? And like, I'm like, nope, we just start cutting the hay, and that dinner bell rings, and they know, hey, let's follow this green tractor around, because every night, those insects come up when that green thing comes out. So they show up, and right now it's prime time. We was just home last weekend, and we wasn't even cutting hay, and they still was flying around. Still, dragonflies, I don't know what it is about this year, but dragonflies are everywhere. So they're coming in and getting the dragonflies, and so we just having a good time just watching them. We could sit on the truck and just watch them fly overhead. And a lot of people, most of those birds, the swallowtails, predominantly are kind of Florida bird, but they do come up to middle part of Alabama and some of the other southern areas. But they are predominantly the coolest thing. It's just like watching a fighter jet and them flying and turning and twisting, and that little fork tail looks so cool, and it's just fun.
You weren't really interested in birding before, but you knew the birds and appreciated the birds. But now you have this great camera. It does look like a rocket launcher. I'm totally familiar with what you're talking about. My husband is a landscape photographer. So he's got like these crazy lenses that he needs like two arms to hold. But your photography is really beautiful. And I'm wondering, now that you have started this business, are you out birding beyond just this area? What are your favorite birds to spot now that your interest has been primed by this new business?
I get so many people, and they say, Chris, where are you getting all these variety of birds? And I tell people my best birding is right outside my office. So most of the pictures that I've taken, I've literally stood in my parking lot and got pictures of birds. Wood storks. There's a juvenile wood stork hanging right across my field. My office is the habitat, and I try to tell people, build the habitat, the birds will come. My building that I'm in is out in a hayfield. There's a farm. It's off of Tuskegee University farm. So the cattle farm is right across the parking lot from us. The hayfields is off to the left. There's a pond across the area that the cows get in. And that whole surrounding area, I don't even have to go anywhere. I can walk down the street, get meadowlarks. I got pictures of meadowlarks, eastern meadowlarks. I had Mississippi kites. I counted 8 yesterday that were flying over the office. They would go, literally over the office. I saw my first osprey I photographed right by the office. He was headed towards the pond. And wood storks moved in. So there's a juvenile wood stork that moved in I want to say last week. So I've been getting photos of him pretty much every day. And a lot of people say, oh my gosh, you're seeing birds that I don't even know where to go to find them. And they're just right here at me. Eastern bluebirds nest in the awning above my office door. So Eastern kingbirds, they're there all the time nesting in a crepe myrtle. And then I have killdeer that walk the parking lot and almost get in the truck with me. And it's just, that's where I kind of honed in my birding skills, because I could just literally walk out my office door and go walk out back and see summer tanagers and stuff like that. So I just have the habitat that is very conducive to, attracting and keeping birds.
In all of the work that you do, you're really encouraging others to appreciate, explore, and protect the natural world. What advice would you give to people who want to help work towards protecting our environment, but maybe they feel overwhelmed at the enormity of our problems and like they don't have the power or the ability to make real impactful change?
I say start with what you can put your hands on. or get your arms around. The property that we have, that's where I home base is. This is our paradise, that if I can get this property in a great conservation, kind of a conservation minded management style, to where we got our cattle fenced out of the streams. They can't get in the creek. So that part, clean water, that's one of our aspects. So clean water. Okay, how do we clean air? Well, we have plenty of trees. We have plenty. So that part, that, keeping forestry alive. Management, how do we make sure that the animals are healthy? Well, have good grass. Well, how do you have good grass? Well, you need to make sure that you're doing the things necessary within the soil. We're doing a lot of no-till drilling, which keeps the soil moisture and keeps your organic content in your soil, instead of doing things the old way of conservation or conventional tillage, and turning the soil over. You're exposing all the roots. You're taking some of the moisture out. And sometimes you're doing a lot of compaction sometimes with that. A lot of people don't recognize that too. So I'm taking the knowledge that I had from school and work and putting that on our property. So I'm creating, and even we just moved into a new house, and I have about an acre backyard. So I'm basically going to mimic and do all the things that I do, plant native habitat. Okay, trees, shrubs, vines, conducive to having animals, and pretty much I'm making a bird sanctuary is what I'm doing. So I partnered with the Audubon Park is a brand. So we partnered, and like I said, I'm throwing that out. This is all new. So it hadn't been fully developed yet. So I got tons of feeders and seeds that are on the way, and then plants that I'm going to plant. So it's good to try to do the things that you can do. But also when people come and they're like, wow, Chris, how did you do this? Boom. That's when I can start telling them, hey, maybe you need to think about, well, I only have a little backyard. Okay, well, what's it look like? Well, I just got, your typical lawn care service that look, monoculture stuff. It's just grass and that's it. Well, have you ever thought about doing a raised bed or planting some trees that are, native to this area, make sure there's some fruit trees? And they're like, no, I never thought about that. Or pollinator habitat. Okay, well, those bees, when you plant pollinator habitat, it's going to attract bees, going to attract other insects, and that's going to attract the birds that come to eat the insects. And now, boom, you just made your own little habitat. And then the plants, cleaning the air for you around. So you're making your own sanctuary. And I think that's the point of the partnership that I did with the Audubon Park. That's what we're trying to show folks. Whether you got 200 acres, you might not have 200 acres like us, but you might have a backyard that you can start. So if I get 6 people to start being more conscious of, okay, well, let me make sure my area that I can control is good, then somebody else is going to look at that and like, wow, you got a lot of stuff that's real nice looking. And how did you come about? And that just keeps the ball rolling. So I'm very, I don't know if it's optimist or realist or what it is, but I feel like I'm a bigger influence on my surroundings than somebody in another state or government entity could tell me, hey, this is what we're going to do for everybody. It never works like that. Even with me working with the feds, I have a bigger part on individuals at my ground level, because I'm seeing them face to face. I'm working on them. I'm walking the property with them. I'm planning with them. And I think that is the way that we can reach people with those. Yes, the funding is important, but that is the person to person helping them on their property. Then once they achieve that, they're telling other people like, hey, you need to go talk to Chris. He helped me do this, and that. And that's how a lot of, word get around that, I've been on. I don't even know how many people we've helped since I've been there. And I've been there probably 6 years. But we've changed a lot of lives and helped a lot of people achieve stuff. So we got some people that are growing vegetables that now supplying Publix, and another guy's, all the restaurants, surrounding restaurants, they're buying his vegetables that we helped him put a hoop house, and he's growing micro irrigation and all kinds of stuff out there, tomatoes, and a lot of his stuff is going in, for chefs up in Auburn. And it's just fun to see that you can kind of have that influence on people. Also tie it all back to, being a good steward of the land. So that's just, the part that we're playing without trying to crack somebody over the head and say, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. I'm going to show you how I did it. That's going to kind of, if you're interested, that's going to lead you to ask me certain questions. And that's how I can get in and kind of teach you those conservation without you knowing, oh, you're a tree hugger. No, the things that I'm doing that's all going to benefit that if you're doing this management style. So it's cool to see, and it kind of keeps me on my toes because there's always ways to kind of meet a person where they're at and then help them grow as well.
That's amazing. It causes these ripple effects. Once people start to see that somebody's thriving or they've come up with a really great solution for a problem that they too are having, that's how real, impactful change is made. That's such good advice. Your degree is in agribusiness management, and obviously you are an expert in this field. A lot of the people that follow Urban Exodus or who are listening right now are maybe small-scale farmers or maybe have small land. What are just some creative ways off the top of your head from past projects that you've worked on that they could diversify their revenue streams? There's so many.
And it's like when I point it out to the person and they're like, I never thought about that. So we're just going to break down land uses. So forestry, we had some people with forest areas. They replanted it. There's about 15 to 20-year-old timber out there. And they said, Chris, I don't even know what to do with this land. Alabama is real heavy in the outdoors. Deer hunting, turkey hunting. And even if you have some other open areas, there's some quail, doves, and all kinds of different things. So you can lease your land to other people to hunt. And you can charge, oh, wow, depending on, what you do and offer like extra. So let's just say you had a lodge or a house down there that you built now. Not only can you just offer hunting, you can say, well, hey, I got a bed and breakfast. I can offer you camping opportunities. I have pretty much a shed where you can bring your horses. You can do horseback ride. So just you offering hunting allowed you to do 6 other things that can make money for you. Prime example with us. Okay, we have the cattle. We can reach out, well, which we did. We had Tuskegee University Extension Service come, and we hosted them and did a beef cattle training to where we had local farmers come. We had about 20 farmers come to watch us and also help us. I taught a couple of guys how to give cows tags in the ear, and they never done that before. I said, wow, this is fun. And then another guy, he had the shot. So we had 2 guys that it just was like it's like a kid playing. It's just like, oh my, this is so fun. So we're offering, and that's part of ag tourism. So let's just say you don't even you got some young kids and they never been on a farm. Hey, you can come and you can come watch the cows. You can come feed the cows. So that's ag. And so we're cattle farming, ag tourism, feeding the cows, cow watching, whatever. And then also the nature part. All right. Well, I like to bird watch. Okay, boom. Here you go. There's 6 miles of trails. I can take you around. Here's a map if you want to explore yourself. I got bicycle people, mountain bike guys. Hey, here you go. There's 6 miles of trails, different habitat areas, and then the camping people. When I say it gets dark down there, this is not like light pollution city. It's dark. There's some times you can't see your hand in front of your face. But we had people that came and camped, and that is something else. So just based off of our main operation, which is a cattle farm, because I'm offering right now. I'm doing I'm selling bird photography, prints. I do sketch art, bird houses. So that's 3 additional things that I've added to the bird watching, the camping, and the hiking. So that's 6 things altogether just based off of the beef cattle farm. So when I talk to people in that fashion, they're like, I didn't know that. I didn't know I could do all these things at one time. And I'm like, and when people say, Chris, how do you find all the time to do all this? I'm like, it's not. I mean, I do this stuff all the time. And that's where I think passions play into a big role. I can't just make somebody have the same feeling that I have from my property and let them, take it over. It's not going to be the same thing. You're not going to be excited to, oh man, I'm looking forward to next Saturday, and then we hadn't even got there yet. So that kind of excitement, or let me just get my camera and go walk outside. Some of my best photos, I'm just, in the days that I don't bring my camera or something with me to work or walk, I regret it. So I always it rides in my passenger seat with me, and it's just part of it. But just letting people see the passion and coming up with stuff that you want to do. I've had people that are proficient in kind of crafting and making stuff. Like, okay, well, I make custom, and well, I'm gonna plug my wife in. She makes custom tumblers, so she's doing tumblers themed on birds to sell next week. So now you're offering somebody else opportunities to grow their business based off of certain themes. So your bird watching, your other stuff, your bicyclist guys. Hey, I've got a bicycle shop. Well, hey, I'm gonna offer this group. They're gonna bring 60 of their members to ride bicycles, and you got a tire shop or whatever shop, and they can come, buy something from you. So you're not only it kind of making your own economic engine, and I think cities need to kind of pay attention to that because we've helped hotels, and we're bringing in almost 150 people on a weekend for bird watching, and that's going to help the local economy because you got your vendors. And one gentleman, he catered our last tour, and I mean the people selling barbecue plates, $7 times 150 people are coming, or that's money that we're putting in his pocket that's going to generate inside the economy of the city. So your hotel, like I said, your gas stations, your crafting people, your coffee folks, hey, they're getting there 7 in the morning. Somebody want to drink some coffee. Hey, I sell coffee. Go right there, get your coffee. So bird watching is just a vehicle, or I call it the umbrella that we're using to get a lot of things up under that. So that's just my story. And I try to break it easy to people that, hey, yeah, you may do this, but just think of all the other stuff that can come from up under that is what you need to kind of, if you don't think of it yourself, who can you talk to that can kind of, plug some of these ideas into your mind? Like, oh, I never thought of it like that.
Especially when maybe you're new to an area, right? And you're trying to build inroads in that community. If you create something and then you bring other local, rurally based businesses into that so that they're benefiting from it too, it's such a great way to really weave yourself into the fabric of a community and to really help lift all ships of sorts.
And that still goes back to everything being a individually based kind of engine, because it's like we're helping our own city. We're not getting, somebody's not mandating X amount of dollars to come here and grow this economy. It just, I don't say it won't work, but I feel like I've made more impact in my little community and us from the Birmingham, and that's spreading. So the birding organization, they partner with us to rent our land out for the day for the field trip. So they're partnering with us to help their members. And it's just, I'm telling you, it just makes so much sense if you can get with people that are like-minded, that can help you. Like, oh, wow, well, if you want bird watching opportunities that you don't have to worry about standing on the side of the road, and you need to talk to Chris. And I had since I started, I had two people that I went and consulted on their property because they were interested in trying to make. And she was a retired teacher, and she just said, I heard what you did, and I saw some stuff, and I want you to come and look at my property and see how I can, be. And I'm like, wow. So I'm like a pseudo consultant too. Like, it's just so many different things that I never thought that I would be doing, just based off of the stuff that we started. So, and I doubt, I want to say we're the first in the state doing this. And the birding folks like Chris, we don't know anybody that's doing this. And exactly, because we've been looking for years to try to let somebody to come and do what we're doing with you. We have never found anybody that wanted to do that. So now it's like, and we just been rolling ever since. So I just try to tell people, yeah, you may be the first to start something, but that may be your part to play. So now that we started it, we're getting other people to think about, hey, maybe I need to create better habitat for this, and in turn, we may get other stuff to come into the area, or a species that likes certain, like in your streams. Well, if I clean up the stream, or if I get my cows out the creeks, and maybe the water will get cleaner, and that will in turn bring something else there that's not there. So you never know your benefit that you're going to give to the environment by, just changing up one or two things on your property. So even if you don't have any property, you still can kind of say, hey, let me talk to my grandparents, or they got some land, and let me see, can I get them to think a certain way? And then my dad was real. I still give him all, the credit, because he's open to doing these things. He's like, yeah, let's see what they want. And we've installed a chimney swift tower. And this past weekend, we just finished working with Mississippi State University, and we installed 2 barn owl boxes for a study that they're doing. So it's stuff like that you never think that you can kind of be a kind of a person that, oh, hey, years down the line, the things that they did on our property is going to be talked about in research projects and stuff. And we're going to be on a bar chart somewhere. So it's funny. It's funny to think about that, because I've saw those charts, like, okay, we were at this place. They did a study on barn owls and the habitat of pasture conditions in the prairie, and it all may started at our farm. So that's kind of the things that I think people don't look down the line and see that, the benefits of doing certain things. Oh, well, I'm not getting paid for this. I don't even want to. Like, that may not necessarily be in the cards at that moment, but that may pay dividends down the line that you can't see right now. So I'm always open to it, and Dad, he's open to it too. So we've installed, like I said, a chimney swift tower, and we built ourselves. So we got sponsored from the Audubon chapter to build it. So not only we built that one, they're asking us to build some more. So now we're striking back up the the shed and building stuff now. And then I'm doing the Bluebird box houses. So it's something that you're making business for other people. And like I said, my dad's retired, and like I say, he said, I don't have nothing else to do with the cows. He said, I can build them. I was like, okay. So that's where we are.
Having been on this land for so many generations and in this area, have you and your family noticed any changes to the weather patterns and the climate in the last decade?
Yes. And that you said that. This has been the past month. It has rained more than, I want to say this. It hadn't rained this much in years on our farm, to where we normally would have cut hay probably 3 times already. We've cut hay once. So the weather patterns, it has changed. And now it's so hot out there. I mean, heat advisories, like the real field temps, are 105. I think today's 105. Yesterday was like 107. And now we're, that kind of, in my future view, I don't know, will this break? Will this taper off? Or will we be in another heat wave to where we got so much water, can't go out there, plant anything? Other farmers that I've talked to, they can't even go harvest anything because it didn't make. A lot of their crops stood in water. So corn that they would have harvested already, it's not even growing. So, and it's too late to replant because now we're jumping in the heat season. So you plant that, put it in the ground, there's no water. You're losing twice. So we've noticed that change, that it's on the extreme side of both. It's either raining too much or it's not raining enough. I mean, we're trying to work around that, and then applying your fertilizers or doing your soil test and trying to make sure everything is good. But you still have to be very careful as to not extend something too far, and you may catch a rainy month to where it rains forever, then you can't plant anything or get in the field to harvest it. So it's a fine line that we've been playing, but it's been a long time since it's done that. And I talked to my dad and his history of working the farm day in and day out and seeing how things go, and he's like, Chris, he said it rained more than it had in a long time. Like every day, it almost like every afternoon you could count on the rain, and it would rain. We were having a project here in my backyard we hadn't finished yet because it's just rained every day. So they're building a patio and some stuff out behind my house, and it's just the guys just took their equipment up and left. So because you can't work. I mean, it's that wet. So now it's like extremely hot and it's drying up, but how dry is it going to get? I mean, are we going to run into that drought, which California is pretty much going through right now, and we're in a heat advisory, so you never know. But we do realize that farming makes you be a weather person almost. And I tell people, I say, man, I'm a sideline meteorologist because I look at the weather. I mean, I got weather app on my phone, and I'm like, okay, we need to cut hay. What's my 4-day forecast? Because if you cut that hay, let's say we cut hay today, you don't need a heavy rain come tomorrow, the day after, and the day after. Now you just cut grass down and it's getting pounded into the ground. And when it does dry up, that grass is going to be kind of halfway attached to the ground. And how are you going to get that up? So you can ruin a crop or a harvest by doing that. So you have to be a long range meteorologist, forecast, and hey man, it's been hot. Okay, I see some rain coming up next week. Let's see what it kind of help things pep up, and then let's go, So these are decisions that farmers make, every day. Like I got stuff out in the field that's dying right now, and how do I try to mediate that? Do I want to go ahead and cut it, or can I try to wait another week to see if it's going to rain? Can a rain pattern come? And then that sad thing to where you see it raining across the street at the neighbors and down a drop.
Yeah.
And you're like,
please come over the street.
And it doesn't. Yeah. And then you have 3 more days where it doesn't rain. And that just ruins some stuff. So it is quite the thing. And when people ask me about climate and I'm like, all I know is I'm 36. I remember growing up and how it felt on the same piece of land. I'm not talking about I'm going somewhere else. The same exact spot. I could stand outside. We could go out and play all morning from about, let's just say 9 o'clock to about noon. You wish you would do that right now, 9 to noon, and go play. You would be in somebody's hospital from heat exhaustion or worse. And it burns. There's a burning sensation that it feels like now that it didn't feel like that when I was in elementary playing on the playground. Even in college, it didn't feel like it does now. I tell people, I said, you go back to your childhood. If you stand in the same spot at this time, August, does it feel different, extremely different now than it did then? And a lot of people, well, yeah. I said, okay, that's the point. That's all the point I'm making. However you want to explain how that is, go ahead. But I know that it doesn't feel like it used to.
And farmers are the weather gaugers. I mean, there's the Farmer's Almanac for a reason, right?
Exactly.
And having to figure out how to adapt to such extreme changes, especially if it's like it doesn't even matter whether you're a new farmer or a generational farmer, but having to adapt to these like huge swings every year and not knowing if the rains are coming and not knowing if the rains are going to stop, that's really scary. And it's really hard to like
maintain a living, which even more so would require some creative thinking in like the agritourism realm to try to like mitigate any sort of losses that you have based on weather.
You're getting into the stuff that we're getting into with some of the states, water wars. That's the thing. A lot of states borders are like, hey, you're draining aquifers or something, and your city is, or your state's taking water from our state, and I think you need to regulate. And next thing you know, we're fighting over water. And okay, well, I got a crop, I dug a well. Somebody may come in and say, hey man, you can only turn that on from 6 to 10, and then you can't turn it. And like, well, this is the well that I dug on my property. Like, these are things that are staring, farmers in the face now. Like, hey, I dug a well, I got an irrigation system, I'm going to water my crops. And somebody down the street is like, well, you're draining all the water. And I mean, even just let's say the lawn people, there was, limits on sprinkler system. People, you couldn't water your grass or water the yard. So just because they say, oh, well, we're in a drought, the water levels are getting low, we need to kind of, conserve water. So these are real issues that are coming up. And then in drought conditions, it's really going to be, a strain on local systems. I don't have the answers to all of those, but I see it on the horizon that, this is, if things get, climate and the hots get hotter and then the wets get wetter, it's going to be the times when you need it is not going to be there. That's going to be the real problem.
I just wanted to give an enormous thank you to all of you listeners who have made contributions toward the production of this podcast. Every season, I spend about 100 hours preparing, writing, editing, interviewing, and distributing the podcast. And I have hard costs for my editor and for those hosting fees. And it really means so much to me that you find enough meaning and value in this podcast to pledge your support and to keep it going. And if you haven't had a chance to contribute, we've made it really easy for you. Just click the support button on the top of Urban Exodus website and pledge any amount that you like. Thank you again. I really couldn't continue to do this work without you.
In addition to climate, the pandemic has really laid bare the enormous disparities in farming, from land to capital access to profitability. In your opinion, and I know this is a big question, but what systemic changes do you think need to be made in agriculture in order to have a more equitable, accessible, and functional food system in the U.S.?
With us, like when people ask, how, Chris, y'all didn't go belly up when COVID hit to sell your cattle. The thing that we did to skirt around that, because the beef cattle system or the production line quit, and that backed up the line because, hey, I got 200 cows here and I need them sold. Well, the company is like, well, hey, we can't take anything. So now that money that I would have made selling these cows, I got to keep feeding them. Now that's running into my pocket and my profit, and I'm not making any money. I'm bleeding money because these cows still have to eat, but I normally would have sold them. That's the problem that we have to look at, even with the vegetable production. Hey, I'm still growing this stuff, or I cut it, but the place down the street is not taking anything. The timber market, I think that's what drove a lot of the prices up in, new home builders and people that are looking to buy homes. I mean, the prices are outrageous. So it's like, well, timber just shot up because the mill is saying, okay, we're straight, but hey, I got some stuff that need to go. Well, I'm sorry. These are the kind of problems that we're facing. And I think adjusting on the fly like we did to where we sell predominantly to individuals, we didn't have to deal with that part. And that kind of helped save us because that we weren't relying on selling our cattle to a market. And that kind of, kept us good. But if, larger operations and these large operations that have, a couple hundred animals that need to be sold, and the system backs up. Now we don't have anywhere to offload these animals. Now we got a big problem, and that's what we've faced. And I think COVID is showing us that it doesn't take long for something to go wrong, and we're looking at, crisis. Stores don't have any meat on the shelves, or they're running out of stuff, and, people are buying in bulk, and it's just, I think the snowball effect that it has on the system. I would like to see other avenues. Let's just say here in Alabama, let's say I got goats. I don't even know where to go take my goats to get processed. So it's like I have goats. The only place that process them is in 2 states away, and they're shut down because the outbreak that they had in the plant, a bunch of workers got sick. Now they closed their doors. So I don't have anywhere for my goats. So getting other local, and this is kind of where the local economy can support these systems. Getting that small guy a chance. A lot of the mom and pop stuff, because I remember days where years ago, where there would be smaller operations or smaller places to where, hey, man, I got 2 or 3 cows. Hey, man, I can slaughter them for you and process them, and you can sell them. Now I got money, and I put money in his pocket. That's the kind of stuff that I think needs to be addressed, is that we put too much stock in the large operation to support or make a system, to where when that large system has kinks in it and it backs up and stops, you're small. There's nobody at the small level to take your couple animals here, a couple animals there. There's 5 processors within 100 miles of me. That would support us. That would kind of make me feel a little more comfortable, because, hey, man, yeah, the big guy's not taking any, but I got 2 guys that, I can split my herd up, or split my cattle that I wanted to sell. I can take it to him. Or, hey, there's some local restaurants that need some vegetables. I'm sitting on a couple of bushels of this or a couple of bushels of that. They can take it. So I'm not relying on Publix or Whole Foods and Walmart to come pick it up. And they say, well, we're not picking up anything. So I'm sitting here, and I can't put it in the freezer forever. So it's localizing and providing financial assistance to those local markets. Because just my dad and a lot of the ideas and the things I've seen, experience wise, I get from him. So he was saying that, he said, Chris, let's say, the farm that we have, to support what we have, we're good. But let's say we want to expand the herd. You still need you need financial resources. You need, I need to make additional pasture land, or we need to have this land overseeding it. To overseed and rye or replant it in some kind of winter grazing, it's costly. And a lot of people, farming, you're farming from your career, and it's not one thing. Farming is not supporting 100% of your livelihood. So you're using your, the retirement, or you're using your career to pay for your farming, or help, supplement some of the farming stuff. There needs to be a way to where farmers, or it's easier to access the funds, because it's, even with the programs we have, it's not like what I said, it's not a 100% chance that you get it. But what way can we kind of help the smaller farmers or these local operations to be sustainable, to where, hey, there's this amount of funds, or let's come up with a program to where you're growing what you're growing, and we still kind of help you in that market, because we just helped this guy make a beef processing plant, and he's in business. I feel like if we keep these mom and pop operations alive, if we keep the local people that are supporting the area, keep them alive, I think we can, state to state, county to county, people will feel like I got a hand in the game, because for some reason, it feels like, I think people, if you canvas a lot, it feel like, hey, I'm out here on my own, I'm left on my own kind of thing. So I just feel like we can help more than what we are by trying to go down to that local ground level and see what the needs are in that community. So within 50 miles, you got 3 grazing operations, but you don't have a place to process them. That's just, that doesn't make sense. Or, hey, you want to buy local, and I'm Alabama is, they created a sweet grown Alabama. So that's a state ag, it's part of the ag and industries. So they made that to be a proponent of buy local, buy fresh. So those people can come to that co-op or can be a part of that co-op that where they can tell, hey, I'm in Greensboro, Alabama. Where is a guy that's selling beef? Oh, well, the Joe Farm is selling it. So now I'm plugging people into an organization to where you can come and find those places, or you can come and get that vegetable basket, or you can, and it's something that will help that whole area. So I think if states would kind of look into how they can create an organization or create a network that where you can plug in, hey, Chris is doing bird watching, that's tourism. Hey, I want to come and the families, I got, my grandkids came in town. What can I do this weekend? Oh, let me go look on the Alabama tourism page. Boom, there's a place right down the street that's doing bird watching, or they're doing picking blueberries. So that's stuff like that that I think we can kind of make more people realize the benefits of just having that database, having that place where you can come and look at.
What legacy do you want to leave behind for your family and for future generations?
Regardless of where you start, there is a way for you to be successful. And success can be looked at different ways. And I think a lot of people you're looking at success as, oh man, I just bought a spacecraft and I know I think we have to hone in to make stuff, try to find out what you like to do, find out and a lot of people, you ask them, hey man, what you like to do? Oh, I don't. I mean, a lot of people don't even, sit down with themselves and say, okay, what do I have a strong suit in, or what I can do that brings me happiness to where I don't need 6, 7 people to feel like I'm happy. And going back to the whole, mental state of people and mental issues and people feeling, like life's not worth living. And I feel like we have to look inside and see what things make us happy. What can we do as a person to where I feel good about things? And I kind of like, I could be a loner and I'm a people person. So it's just, I can do that because I have fun. I can just get my camera and you drop me off on a trail and oh my gosh, I feel like 6 hours would pass and I wouldn't even know it. Like what I do now when I go down to the farm and I'm deer hunting, I don't even have to harvest a deer. I can sit in that deer stand, have my camera. I literally sat and watched the mama deers bring their little fawns in. They were eating the field. I saw turkeys. I saw a rabbit swim. No lie, I didn't even know that. I knew they got across, but I'm sitting in the deer stand and I'm looking over my shoulder and I hear the water. I'm like, what is that? And there's a rabbit swimming up the creek, coming up under my deer stand, going in the field, and I'm like, holy crap. And I just felt like I had the best time in the world. But it's stuff like that that brings me excitement or brings me joy, that I feel success. I feel like I'm doing something that I love to do. So I think I leave that with people that, hey, I may not be the richest person, or I may not have the land, but there is something that I can go and enjoy that I don't need a whole crowd of people to feel like I'm doing something. And I think if we let more people know that, and then a lot of people would kind of self-explore or find themselves. And then that way you can kind of feel good about life and also spread it to other people. Because like I said, what I'm doing on my farm that we've been doing forever, and people say, oh man, y'all been doing this? I'm like, yeah, I did. I thought everybody kind of did some stuff like this. And a lot of people don't, or a lot of people don't, or they don't have access to that. Because like, how many people actually has a person that, hey, I want to go and explore nature. I'm going to just go on Chris's property. Like, a lot of people don't know folks like that or will let people come on their property. So us allowing our property to be open to public and say, hey, you can come and explore, you can see different plants, and it's not just birds. So plant, insects, all kinds of stuff. And I've had a guy plant on the last tour that we did. He pointed out a plant that I'm like, holy crap, that's that. He's like, hey, that's a indigo dwarf bush. I'm like, what? And then the fact that he knew what it was, and everybody was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. So it's opening you up, once you kind of find out the things that you like or what you have, there's somebody somewhere that can appreciate what you're doing. So it's going to help you branch off and kind of expand your horizons per se.
And part of that really is like that healing power of nature, that ability to like reconnect with kind of what it means to be human, our connection with earth, and how healing that can be to people. And so I really appreciate that, you are not only a steward of your land, but you are sharing that land with others. And it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. I know we've run over time, but I'm just really inspired by you and what you've created and your energy and passion that you bring to life. I guess to leave it off, I'd love for you to share if there are any exciting things on the horizon from a personal or business perspective, and how people can come and support your mission and visit you there in Alabama.
It's just exciting time because we're getting more people interested in coming and birding with us. My social media has exploded because of the things that we're doing, and I'm just tickled at it because people are coming and visiting us that I never would have met in day-to-day life at all. And that's the joy of social media, or the benefit of social media. Because a lot of people think, oh, social media is bad. 95% of the people that have toured with us, I've never even met in person besides online. And that's the fun. So when they come and meet, wow, I felt like I know you because I see you and I'm watching you do this stuff on your land, and just sharing that, not being afraid to share what you're doing, because like I said, you never know how it might touch somebody. And what kind of feeling when they get coming to your property. I had one lady, she almost cried. She just said, this feels just like my grandparents. And she was like in her 80s. And she said, oh, this feels like my grandparents' house. What you guys doing out here? The cows mooing, the birds in the morning, the crickets and frogs and she said, this feels just like my grandparents. She said, I remember being a little girl walking around doing this stuff. And and it makes you feel like, wow, so you're making me choke up, lady, because I'm like, I didn't know it was this. I thought they were just out here showing you. They're like, no, there's a tie that you may strike memories in people that they never couldn't remember. And you're bringing up childhood memories that they need for some kind of healing. So I'm just grateful that, we have this opportunity and doing this kind of an outreach therapy for people that, hey, we're here. You can come and visit with us and tour with us and just experience. If you want to come and just sit in one spot, I mean, and the fact that I'm a proponent of that. I'm like, hey, you don't have to. A lot of people say, do I need be a professional birder? Do I need to know what the bird? I'm saying, man, you can come down here. You might not even know how to use binoculars. I can teach you how to use binoculars. Or if you just want to sit down somewhere, that's fine. I mean, and I think people appreciate that because it doesn't feel like I'm on a test. I need to know what this. Oh, he's going to ask me what bird that is, and I don't know it. I feel the pressure, and I don't want people to have any kind of pressure on them. It's, hey, we're coming to relax. We're coming to enjoy. We're coming to educate you, and you don't even know you're getting educated because I'm just making it feel that easy. I had a snake skin, rat snake skin that I went around on a tour, and I had a young group of girls. And they're probably like 12. Their mothers brought them. We went around and I went and checked a deer stand. And I got up there and I saw a snake skin up there. And I'm like, you guys won't believe what I'm seeing. And it's like their face was like, I don't know what he's about to pull down from up that thing. And then when I brought the snake skin down and I discussed kind of what the snake skin was, and they just had a basically an education in outdoors and snakeskin and why snakes are important, and this easy stuff like that we can teach people without it, like you're saying, not trying to hit you over the head with a book or something. So I'm real satisfied that, that what I'm doing is helping people, and I can be reached. Instagram is my main platform at Birds and Nature Tours. Email is birdsandnaturetours@gmail.com. If you can find me on those platforms, pretty much Instagram, my YouTube channel link is on there. So I have a YouTube channel, but all of that stuff can be, just find me on Instagram and you'll find everything else, because my website link is on there and everything else. So that's the way I can be reached.
I'll make sure that I have all of those links also on this podcast. I'll create like a blog post with that to have all those links as well. But I just really appreciate you connecting with me, Christopher. It's been such a pleasure to speak with you. And I hope that I can come out there and do my first bird watching experience with you sometime in the future. I think you're just a really amazing human being. And I love what you are bringing into this world and your energy. It's really wonderful.
I just try to be down to earth. So I really I get tickled at it. Everybody say, Chris, you're doing so much stuff and you just act like a regular. I'm like, trust me, I'm as regular and as easygoing as you can ever find. So,
well, when you found your purpose and you found your stride, it should be easy, right? And I can just tell that in you. I see it. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Christopher Joe. What an absolutely inspiring and passionate human being. I so appreciate all of the wisdom that Christopher shared, but I especially love him talking about the importance of collaboration in rural entrepreneurship. Meet with people, share your vision, listen to what they need, and build a community of folks cheering you on and helping you succeed. He also spoke of the incredible power of rural tourism and its ability to be a booster for the entire local economy. That has been so true in so many stories that I've covered on Urban Exodus. I also really appreciated his vision for a better future, investing more in small-scale farms to make communities more self-reliant and to work towards less destructive agriculture practices. Christopher talking about how the heat has intensified on the land where he grew up is something that I know many of us can relate to. His words on the importance of diversified income streams for farmers to stay afloat in times of weather uncertainty really hit home for me. I highly encourage anyone that's going through Alabama, even if you aren't a birder, to go and take a birding or naturalist tour at the Joe Farm. You can find photos and links to Christopher's websites and social media on my blog by visiting urbanexodus.com. Hi, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Urban Exodus podcast. Urban Exodus is a labor of love and is only made possible by listener support. I do this work because the people I meet through this project give me energy and hope for the future. My mission is to promote the work of people manifesting good in the world. We are living in a time where there's an overwhelming feeling of dread, and I want this project to encourage people to be proactive and work towards finding creative solutions for both their individual happiness and our collective experience. You can support this work by clicking the support button at the top of urbanexodus.com, by buying an ad spot in an upcoming episode, by shopping our online store, or taking an in-person or online course through our workshops at How Hill Farm. We are also slowly getting our Patreon page together, and we'll be adding bonus features and other content there, so check out patreon.com/urbanexodus to learn more. Another way to support is by giving us a 5-star rating on iTunes and recommending Urban Exodus to your friends. Thank you again for helping me continue to do this work. I couldn't do it without all of you. You can find Urban Exodus on Instagram and Facebook at The Urban Exodus. To read more in-depth features on folks who ditch the city and went country, visit urbanexodus.com. Until next time, I'm Alyssa Hessler, and this is The Urban Exodus.